Ada Lovelace stepped into the bustling London salon, her mind alive with mathematical theories. She immediately gravitated toward Charles Babbage, who was demonstrating a small mechanical model. The gleaming brass gears of the difference engine caught the ambient candlelight beautifully. Ada Lovelace recognized the profound conceptual leap behind this calculating machine instantly. She spent the remainder of the evening asking probing questions about the machine's absolute limits. Soon after, she commenced a rigorous correspondence with Babbage to delve deeper into mechanical computation. Her adult years became entirely defined by this intense, unyielding pursuit of mathematical truth. She eagerly studied the works of continental mathematicians to expand her analytical framework. Mary Somerville acted as an essential mentor, guiding her through advanced algebraic concepts. Together, they analyzed complex astronomical data sets late into the rainy London nights. When Charles Babbage conceptualized the grander analytical engine, Ada Lovelace was captivated entirely. This new machine was designed to use punched cards, a method borrowed from the Jacquard loom. Ada Lovelace visited a textile factory to observe the automated looms operating in real time. She realized that the analytical engine could manipulate symbols just as the loom manipulated threads. In 1842, Italian engineer Luigi Menabrea published a comprehensive French paper on Babbage engine. Ada Lovelace was commissioned to translate this vital document into clear English for publication. She did not merely translate the words, she fundamentally expanded the entire thesis. Babbage suggested she add her own explanatory notes to the translated text. These annotations grew to be 3 times longer than the original article itself. She labeled these brilliant, dense additions systematically from note through note G. In Note A, she beautifully articulated the vast philosophical difference between the two engines. She explained that the difference engine could only compute predetermined mathematical tables. The analytical engine, she argued, was an entirely flexible, multi-purpose machine. She wrote that the engine might act upon other things besides number, such as musical notation. If music could be reduced to abstract rules, the machine could compose scientific pieces of any complexity. This insight was the birth of modern, generalized computer science theory. Ada Lovelace deeply believed in a methodology she proudly termed poetical science. She combined rigorous mathematical logic with a vivid, highly expressive imagination. Her unique perspective allowed her to see possibilities that Babbage himself frequently overlooked. While Babbage focused on pure calculation, Ada Lovelace saw the true dawn of digital computation. Note G contained the absolute crown jewel of her extensive commentary. In this section, she painstakingly created a detailed plan to calculate Bernoulli numbers. This specific table outlined a precise sequence of operations for the machine to execute. It included loops, conditional statements, and memory routing instructions. This complete execution diagram is now recognized as the world's very first computer program. She worked tirelessly through the humid summer months of 1843 to finalize the publication. Her health suffered immensely due to the grueling hours spent writing and editing. She frequently suffered from severe digestive issues and intense, debilitating headaches. Despite her physical ailments, her letters to Babbage remained fiercely energetic and focused. She demanded absolute clarity from him regarding the mechanical variables of the engine. Babbage sometimes struggled to keep pace with her rapid conceptual developments. They argued occasionally over editorial control of the final published work. Ada Lovelace held her ground firmly, refusing to allow him to compromise her independent vision. The translated paper and notes were finally published in Richard Taylor's scientific memoirs. She signed the work only with her initials, A.L., to maintain Victorian professional decorum, tant I. The publication caused an immediate stir among the select scientific elite of Great Britain. Prominent scientists praised the absolute precision and depth of the extensive annotations. Ada Lovelace felt an immense wave of pride and validation upon seeing her theories in print. She next sought to expand her expertise into the emerging field of electrical science. She met with Michael Faraday to discuss the fundamental nature of electromagnetic currents. Faraday was deeply impressed by her quick grasp of invisible, abstract physical forces. She also corresponded with Charles Wheatstone about his innovative telegraph systems. Ada Lovelace envisioned connecting the telegraph networks directly to the analytical engine. She imagined a global network where data could stream across oceans instantly. Her husband, William King Noel, supported her intellectual endeavors with immense devotion. He frequently acted as her clerk, copying her messy drafts into clean, readable scripts. Their home at Ockham Park became a vibrant meeting place for great Victorian minds. Charles Dickens was among the regular guests who attended her evening gatherings. Dickens admired her fierce intellect and her completely unconventional approach to life. Ada Lovelace enjoyed discussing the deep psychological mechanics behind creative storytelling. She believed that literature and mathematics sprang from the exact same imaginative well. However, the massive cost of building the analytical engine remained a permanent obstacle. The British government repeatedly refused to grant additional funding for the project. Ada Lovelace grew increasingly desperate to find a secure source of independent capital. She turned her formidable mathematical skills toward the unpredictable world of horse racing. She attempted to develop a foolproof mathematical system for predicting race outcomes. She formed a secret syndicate with several close male associates to place large bets. The complex probability model failed completely to account for human and animal variables. Ada Lovelace lost an immense amount of money, sinking deep into severe financial ruin. She was forced to pawn some of her family's precious heirloom diamonds to pay the debts. The extreme stress of the gambling debacle exacerbated her hidden, underlying illnesses. Her doctor prescribed heavy doses of laudanum to manage her chronic, worsening pain. The medication frequently caused her to experience vivid, bizarre hallucinations and mood swings. During periods of mental clarity, she returned fiercely to her beloved scientific papers. She began outlining a new treatise on the relationship between the mind and the brain. She wanted to understand how thoughts could be converted into mechanical mathematical rules. Her mother, Lady Byron, took total control of her household as her health failed. Lady Byron strictly restricted access to Ada Lovelace's longtime friends and scientific peers. Ada Lovelace felt increasingly isolated and imprisoned within her own quiet sickroom. She found solace only in listening to her daughter play soft classical music on the harp. The diagnosis of advanced uterine cancer finally explained her years of agonizing suffering. Medical professionals subjected her to aggressive, painful bloodletting therapies. She bore the agonizing treatments with immense, quiet stoicism and fortitude. In her final weeks, she made a confession to her husband that fractured their relationship. He left her bedside permanently, leaving her in the care of her strict mother. Ada Lovelace requested to be buried directly next to her famous father, Lord Byron. She passed away quietly on November 27, 1842, at the young age of 36. Her small, quiet funeral was attended by only a handful of loyal scientific friends. Charles Babbage stood by the grave, deeply mourning the loss of his brilliant collaborator. Her extraordinary notes lay completely forgotten in obscure scientific archives for a century. In the mid-20th century, early computer scientists rediscovered her incredible work. Alan Turing read her notes carefully while developing his own theories on artificial intelligence. Turing famously debated Lady Lovelace's objection regarding whether machines could truly think independently. In 1980, the United States Department of Defense named a powerful new computer language, Ada, in her honor. Her pioneering insights laid the conceptual foundation for the entire modern digital world. Ada Lovelace is now globally celebrated every October on a dedicated International Day of Recognition. Her legacy serves as a brilliant, timeless beacon for women working across all STEM fields. She looked far beyond the cold iron gears of her era to see the limitless future of software. Her adult life was a brilliant flash of intellectual lightning that illuminated the distant future. She proved forever that computation is an art form as much as a mathematical discipline. Ada Lovelace's profound mathematical journey began in earnest when she mastered advanced calculus as a young woman. She routinely filled thick leather journals with dense proofs and algebraic derivations. Her sharp analytical mind sought patterns in everything from planetary motion to complex card games. She challenged traditional thinkers who claimed women lacked the capacity for spatial logic. Her letters to Mary Somerville revealed a deep, unquenchable thirst for structural truth. She frequently visited scientific exhibitions to witness the latest mechanical innovations firsthand. The precise predictability of automated industrial machinery fascinated her intensely. She recognized that mechanical movements could mirror human logical processes. Her meeting with Babbage provided the perfect catalyst for her mathematical ambitions. She offered to help him secure public interest for his struggling inventions. She drafted high-level summaries explaining the engine's mechanics for non-technical audiences. Her writing combined absolute clarity with a deep sense of wonder and possibility. She spent weeks analyzing the intricate system of gears within the difference engine design. She identified several areas where the mechanical routing could be streamlined. Babbage enthusiastically adopted many of her structural modifications. Their collaboration grew into a powerful intellectual partnership that defied societal expectations. She pushed him to think beyond the constraints of contemporary engineering limitations. She envisioned a machine that could execute infinitely nested subroutines. This conceptual leap laid the foundational framework for modern loop programming structures. When Menabrea's paper arrived, she saw it as her ultimate intellectual calling. She translated each sentence with painstaking care to preserve the exact mathematical nuances. She quickly realized that Menabrea had failed to grasp the full scope of the engine. She immediately began writing her extensive notes to correct these conceptual oversights. Note B examined how the engine could store intermediate values for future operations. She described this process as a physical store separate from the calculating mill. This exact architecture mirrors the modern separation between CPU and RAM chips. In Note C, she introduced the brilliant concept of conditional variables. She explained how the machine could change its execution path based on current data. This concept gave the machine the illusion of choice and operational autonomy. Note D detailed the complex card sorting mechanisms required for advanced computations. She spent days calculating the physical speed at which the cards could be processed. She worried that physical wear on the paper cards would introduce calculation errors. To solve this, she proposed reinforcing the card borders with thin metal strips. In Note E, she explored the computation of logarithmic and trigonometric functions. She demonstrated how the engine could process transcendental numbers with absolute precision. Note F outlined an innovative method for verifying the accuracy of the engine's internal states. She invented the concept of an automated error check during active calculation cycles. Her ultimate achievement, Note G, required weeks of completely sleepless nights. She drank pots of strong black coffee to maintain her intense mental focus. The Bernoulli algorithm required a perfect understanding of recursive mathematical logic. She checked every single line of the code sequence over a dozen times manually. Babbage discovered a tiny error in one of her calculations during a routine review. She corrected the mistake instantly, rewriting the entire section with absolute flawlessness. When she delivered the final manuscript, she felt completely drained, yet deeply exhilarated. The printers struggled to properly format her massive, complex mathematical tables. Ada Lovelace spent hours at the print shop, personally overseeing the typesetting process. She insisted that the layout of the Bernoulli table remain entirely unbroken across the page spread. The successful publication cemented her reputation within the underground scientific community. She hosted a celebratory dinner at her estate to mark the historic occasion. Her thoughts immediately turned to what other frontiers she could conquer next. She became intensely interested in the mysterious properties of animal magnetism. She wondered if the human nervous system operated on subtle mathematical laws. She discussed these radical ideas with prominent medical experts across London. Many traditional physicians dismissed her bold hypotheses as wild, untamed speculation. Undeterred, she continued to gather data on human sensory perception profiles. She hoped to write a comprehensive mathematical model of the human soul. Her expanding ambitions required a level of funding she simply did not possess. She watched with frustration as Babbage's project continually stalled due to lack of cash. She realized that, without a working prototype, her software programs could never be run. This painful realization drove her toward her desperate gambling schemes. She believed her probability equations could outsmart any professional bookmaker. She tracked the lineage and past performance metrics of hundreds of thoroughbred horses. Her partners in the gambling syndicate began placing increasingly reckless wagers. When a favored horse fell at the final hurdle, her entire system collapsed instantly. The financial fallout was catastrophic for her personal estate and standing. Blackmailers threatened to expose her secret gambling activities to the public press. She met with her blackmailers in a private carriage to settle the debts quietly. The intense emotional distress took a devastating toll on her physical well-being. She was confined to her bed as a mysterious illness took a firm, violent hold. Her mother arrived quickly to assume absolute control over her entire household. Lady Byron replaced her books with heavy volumes of religious scripture and sermons. Ada Lovelace was forced to endure long, exhausting lectures on repentance and sin. Her scientific correspondence was strictly intercepted and destroyed by her mother. Ada Lovelace managed to smuggle a final message out to Charles Babbage through a loyal maid. In the note, she begged him to ensure her scientific legacy would not be buried by her family. Babbage received the message but found himself entirely powerless against her wealthy family. As her cancer progressed, the pain became a constant, roaring torment. She used her final remaining strength to sketch one last geometric idea on a napkin. She looked at the drawing and smiled, knowing her mind remained unbroken until the end. Her bedroom grew entirely quiet as she slipped away into a deep, final sleep, but her passing was barely noted by the mainstream Victorian press of the time. Her body was transported via a somber carriage to the Church of St. Mary Magdalene. She was laid to rest in the Byron family vault, exactly as she had wished. For generations, her contributions were dismissed as mere clerical assistants to Babbage. Her brilliant notes were treated as a historical curiosity rather than a scientific breakthrough. The dawn of the computer age changed her historical narrative entirely and permanently. Researchers realized that her algorithms predated operational hardware by a century. Her concept of software was recognized as a work of absolute, standalone genius. Today, tech companies around the world display her image proudly in their offices. An international award ceremony honors innovators who embody her pioneering spirit every year. Her intellectual journey stands as a monument to the power of pure, visionary thought. Ada Lovelace proved that the imagination can unlock doors that logic alone cannot see. She remains the eternal mother of computer programming, inspiring millions across the globe. Her story is a brilliant reminder that software has always been a medium for deep creativity. Ada Lovelace's adult career was anchored by an unwavering belief in numerical beauty. She frequently retreated to her study at dawn to catch the earliest natural light. Her desk was always cluttered with compasses, protractors, and custom brass rulers. She maintained a vast network of scientific contacts across continental Europe. She translates scientific papers not just for income, but to keep her mind sharp. Her analytical skills allowed her to spot hidden errors in published astrological charts. She challenged the Royal Society's policy of excluding women from formal meetings. She bypassed their restrictions by sending her work directly through influential male allies. Her collaborative sessions with Babbage were legendary for their intense intellectual energy. They often filled entire rooms with discarded blueprints and design revisions. She kept a miniature model of a single calculating gear on her desk for inspiration. She loved to watch the teeth of the gear engage with absolute mechanical perfection. She saw the analytical engine as a grand symphony of pure mathematical logic. Her work on Menabre's paper required an absolute mastery of technical French terminology. She spent an entire week refining the translation of a single complex paragraph. Her added notes were designed to serve as a complete textbook for future programmers. Note laid down the foundational philosophy of what computers could eventually become. She predicted that machines would one day process graphics and complex visual shapes. This insight predated the invention of computer screens by more than 100 years. In Note B, she created a radical new notation system for tracking variables. She realized that data storage must be managed with absolute efficiency to prevent crashes. Note C explained how mathematical operations could be repeated automatically via a loop cycle. She demonstrated how this looping process would save hours of manual card stamping. Her conceptual architecture for conditional branching was a work of pure genius. Note D addressed the complex physical handling of thousands of punched cards simultaneously. She designed a special sorting tray to keep the data sequences perfectly aligned. Note E provided the mathematical formulas for calculating complex astronomical curves. She showed how the engine could predict the exact positions of stars decades into the future.
Open the frame, watch it come alive. Lines on the glass turn into design. One clean move and the whole thing shifts. You tap the edge, now the future fits. Hold that spark, keep it sharp, feel the code in your palm. All the noise falls away, now the signal leads the way. Built for the next move, built for the next move. Sharp and alive tonight. Built for the next move, built for the next move. Everything feels right.
Note F focused entirely on creating an unbreakable system of computational data validation. She argued that a machine must be capable of identifying its own internal faults. Her final work on Note G was an absolute tour de force of numerical programming. The complex grid mapped out the complete life cycle of every single variable in the code. She celebrated the completion of the notes by taking a long horseback ride through the countryside. The fresh outdoor air provided a temporary relief from her constant physical exhaustion. Upon her return, she faced the immediate practical challenge of finding a publisher. Several printing companies rejected the work due to its sheer density and complexity. Richard Taylor recognized its immense scientific value and agreed to print it immediately. Ada Lovelace spent days reviewing the galley proofs to ensure absolute mathematical precision. The publication brought her immediate, quiet renown among European mathematicians. She used her newfound influence to advocate for expanded scientific education for women. She began planning a massive new research project focused on the physics of flight. She studied the wing structure of various birds to design an automated flying machine. She hoped to power her conceptual aircraft using a compact steam engine design. However, lack of engineering resources forced her to shelve her aviation dreams permanently. Her thoughts returned to Babbage's ongoing struggles to secure British government funding. She wrote a series of passionate letters to influential politicians, urging them to support the project. The politicians remained entirely indifferent to the abstract promises of mechanical computation. This political inertia drove her to seek alternative, highly risky financial avenues. She believed she could unlock the secret mathematical code behind random chance games. She gathered extensive data from various casinos to test her mathematical systems. Her mathematical models failed to predict the streak of bad luck that hit her syndicate. The sudden financial losses devastated her family's personal banking accounts. She fell into a deep, painful state of mental and physical depression. Her worsening health required the constant attendance of several prominent medical specialists. They administered dangerous concoctions of mercury and opiates to treat her conditions. The heavy drugs cloud her once sharp, analytical mind for days at a time. Her mother used this vulnerability to assert absolute religious authority over her. Lady Byron systematically dismissed all of Ada Lovelace's scientific servants and assistants. Ada Lovelace was left entirely alone with her mother's harsh, judgmental presence. During a brief respite from pain, Ada Lovelace wrote a series of moving farewell letters. She addressed her final thoughts to her children, urging them to love mathematics and art. She requested that her personal notebooks be given to a trusted scientific custodian. Her strength finally left her completely as winter set in over London. She passed away peacefully, surrounded by the quiet ticking of her bedroom clock. Her mother ensured that her funeral remained small, private, and entirely non-scientific. Charles Babbage spent his remaining years defending her authorship of the famous notes. He published a passionate defense of her mathematical genius in his own memoirs. Her ideas remained frozen in time, waiting for technology to catch up to her vision. The advent of electronic computing in the 20th century vindicated her completely. Computer historians recognized her Bernoulli chart as a true architectural masterpiece. Her vision of a creative computer became the defining reality of the modern era. Every year, thousands of women celebrate her birthday by launching new coding initiatives. Her name is forever etched into the pantheon of history's greatest scientific minds. She looked at an incomplete machine of brass and iron and saw the birth of software. Her legacy is a timeless testament to the power of human imagination and intellect. Ada Lovelace's adult life was a brilliant odyssey through the vast landscapes of pure logic. She routinely spent her afternoons solving advanced differential equations just for fun. She refused to allow household management to distract her from her intellectual destiny. Her study room was a sanctuary filled with the smell of leather and ink. She loved to analyze the mathematical structural patterns hidden within classical architecture. Her early adult letters reveal a mind desperate for a worthy intellectual challenge. That challenge arrived the moment she witnessed Babbage's mechanical computing prototypes. She instantly saw that the machine could eliminate human error from navigation tables. She offered to dedicate her entire career to advancing his computational concepts. Babbage found her absolute clarity of thought to be a breath of fresh air. She began translating French articles to ensure his ideas reached a wider audience. The translation process allowed her to deeply master every aspect of the engine's design. She quickly realized that the engine could process symbols that did not represent numbers. This realization was the spark that ignited the entire field of computer programming. She began writing her famous notes on a large wooden table in her estate conservatory. Nota defined the concept of a universal machine capable of endless tasks. She predicted that computers would one day be used to create beautiful works of art. In Note B, she addressed the critical problem of temporary data memory storage. She designed a system to prevent new data from overwriting essential stored variables. Note C introduced the revolutionary concept of the programmatic conditional jump. She explained how a machine could make decisions based on its own results. Note D detailed the logistical challenges of managing large decks of punched cards. She created a color-coded index system to ensure cards were fed in the correct order. In Note E, she applied the engine's capabilities to solving complex chemical equations. She showed how the machine could predict chemical reactions without mixing a single fluid. Note F explored how the engine could detect and isolate faulty mechanical components. She wanted the machine to automatically stop running if an error was detected. Her work on Note G required an absolute pinnacle of intellectual endurance. The Bernoulli program table she created was completely flawless in its execution logic. She personally delivered the completed manuscript to the printing house in London. The publication caused an immediate wave of excitement among progressive intellectuals. Ada Lovelace felt a deep sense of accomplishment as her ideas circulated across Europe. She immediately began exploring the possibility of building an automated computing center. She imagined rows of analytical engines powered by a central steam plant installation. However, the massive capital required for such an enterprise remained completely out of reach. Her inability to build the hardware drove her into deep financial desperation. She turned to high-stakes card games, hoping to exploit mathematical probability theories. She spent months developing a secret betting system based on statistical analysis. The unpredictable human element of the game destroyed her system entirely. She incurred massive debts that threatened to ruin her family's social standing. She secretly sold off pieces of her personal property to satisfy her aggressive creditors. The extreme psychological stress triggered a severe relapse of her chronic medical conditions. She became permanently bedridden as an aggressive form of cancer took hold of her. Her mother arrived to assume total control over her life and medical treatments. Lady Byron confiscated all of her mathematical journals and scientific correspondence letters. Ada Lovelace was forced to spend her final days listening to religious tracts on sin. She found quiet moments of peace by looking out at a large oak tree in the garden. She dictating her final wishes to a trusted legal representative who visited her secretly. She insisted on being buried next to her father, whom she never truly knew in life. She passed away quietly on a cold, late November evening in London. Her small, quiet funeral was a stark contrast to her immense intellectual vision. Her brilliant notes lay hidden in dark university library basements for over a century. The birth of the modern computer age brought her work back into the bright light of day. Historians were astonished by the absolute modern accuracy of her early algorithms. She's now universally recognized as a true pioneer of the digital revolution. Her life story inspires millions of young programmers who write code every single day. She combined the heart of a poet with the mind of a master mathematician. Ada Lovelace's profound legacy will continue to illuminate the future of technology forever. Ada Lovelace's mature career was defined by an absolute refusal to accept traditional intellectual boundaries. She routinely spent her mornings analyzing the mechanical properties of advanced metallurgy. Her private study was always filled with a unique mixture of art and science. She maintained a regular, intense correspondence with leading academics across Great Britain, but she used these letters to debate the fundamental nature of mathematical abstraction. Her sharp intellect allowed her to instantly spot structural flaws in contemporary physics papers. She felt a deep, powerful calling to leave a permanent mark on human history. That calling found its perfect vehicle when she began studying Babbage's computing designs. She saw that the machine could revolutionize everything from astronomy to global trade systems. She committed herself entirely to becoming the premier advocate for the new technology. Babbage was continually amazed by her ability to synthesize complex mechanical concepts. She began translating Minabre's paper with an intensity that surprised her closest friends. The translation work served as the ideal launching pad for her own original ideas. She realized that the analytical engine was fundamentally different from all previous inventions. This realization led directly to the creation of her historic explanatory notes. Nota laid out a brilliant vision of a machine that could process any symbolic language. She predicted that computation would eventually expand into the world of creative literature. In Note B, she solved the difficult problem of data collision inside the machine's core. She created a tracking ledger to monitor the movement of values between different registers. Note C explained the mechanism of the automated conditional loop with absolute clarity. She showed how this breakthrough would allow the machine to solve complex algebraic equations rapidly. Her architectural designs for data branching were decades ahead of her contemporary peers. Note D detailed the physical filing systems needed to store millions of punched cards. She invented a custom numbering system to ensure cards could be reassembled if dropped. In Note E, she applied the engine's power to calculating complex geological data sets. She demonstrated how the machine could map the interior structures of the Earth automatically. Note F focused entirely on building an automated data auditing system for the engine. She argued that error detection was essential to maintaining the absolute integrity of science. Her work on Note G required an unprecedented amount of mental and physical endurance. The completed Bernoulli program was a flawless manifestation of pure algorithmic logic. She personally traveled to London to oversee the final typesetting of her masterpiece. The successful publication brought her immediate respect from the world's elite mathematicians. Ada Lovelace felt an immense sense of pride as her original theories spread widely. She immediately began researching the possibility of building a miniature version of the engine. She hoped a portable machine would make computation accessible to ordinary working people. However, contemporary manufacturing techniques lacked the precision required for small gears. This technical failure plunged her into a state of deep professional frustration and worry. She turned to risky financial speculation games to fund her ongoing research ambitions. She spent weeks analyzing statistical probability curves to find an edge against the house. The sheer randomness of the physical world defied her strict mathematical models completely. She incurred massive financial debts that threatened her family's entire estate's security. She secretly pawned several prized family heirlooms to settle her urgent accounts quietly. The overwhelming psychological stress caused a severe collapse of her physical health status. She became permanently confined to her bed as an aggressive cancer took firm hold. Her mother arrived immediately to assume complete dictatorial control over her environment. Lady Byron banned all scientific books and papers from entering the sick room entirely. Ada Lovelace was forced to spend her final months listening to continuous moral lectures. She found moments of solace by watching a small robin bird outside her window glass. She secretly dictated her final legal testament to a loyal family attorney who visited. She demanded to be buried next to her legendary father, Lord Byron, in Nottinghamshire. She passed away quietly on a cold late November night inside her London mansion. Her small funeral was a modest affair, completely separate from her grand scientific legacy. Her brilliant notebooks lay forgotten in dark archive basements for more than a century. The modern digital revolution brought her extraordinary work back into the global spotlight. Scientists were stunned by the absolute foresight and precision of her early programming designs. She is now globally celebrated as a true founding mother of computer science technology. Her historic journey inspires millions of young tech students who build software daily. She combined the vision of a poet with the absolute precision of an elite mathematician. Ada Lovelace's profound insights will continue to shape the destiny of technology forever. Ada Lovelace's adult life was a relentless exploration of abstract structural universes. She routinely spent her evenings analyzing the algorithmic patterns found in classical music. She refused to allow societal expectations to restrict her intense intellectual development. Her personal workspace was always filled with the comforting scent of old paper. She loved to decipher the mathematical laws that govern the growth of plants. Her letters from her adult years reveal an intellect desperate for deep collaboration. That ideal collaboration arrived when she began studying Babbage's advanced computing schematics. She saw that the machine could change the face of human knowledge forever. She pledged her full energy to translating and expanding the documentation for it. Babbage was repeatedly astonished by her quick grasp of complex mechanical timing cycles. She translation of Menabrea's paper was executed with absolute precision and linguistic care. The work provided the perfect canvas for her to articulate her own theories. She realized that the analytical engine was a fundamentally new class of technology. This deep insight led directly to the formation of her historic explanatory notes series. Note presented a beautiful vision of a machine that could manipulate abstract symbols. She predicted that digital computation would eventually expand into the world of music. In Note B, she solved the difficult problem of data collision inside memory registers. She created a tracking ledger to monitor the distribution of variables across active cycles. Note C explained the mechanics of the automated loop with absolute logical perfection. She showed how this breakthrough would allow the machine to solve complex algebraic equations. Her architectural layouts for conditional data branching were completely revolutionary for her era. Note D detailed the heavy logistical systems required to manage large decks of punched cards. She designed a custom filing index to ensure cards were fed into the machine correctly. In Note E, she applied the engine's capabilities to solving complex astronomical calculations. She proved that the machine could map the movements of the solar system automatically. Note F focused entirely on creating an automated data auditing protocol for the engine. She argued that error self-detection was vital to maintaining absolute scientific validity. Her final work on Note G required an absolute maximum of physical and mental endurance. The finished Bernoulli algorithm was a flawless demonstration of pure programmatic logic. She personally traveled to London to manage the final printing phase of her manuscript. The successful publication earned her immediate respect from Europe's top mathematical minds. Ada Lovelace felt a deep wave of pride as her original work circulated widely. She immediately began planning a new research project focused on the mechanics of human speech. She hoped a speaking machine could make communication accessible to those who had lost their voices. However, contemporary pneumatic engineering proved too primitive for realistic voice generation. This engineering failure caused her a period of deep professional disappointment and stress. She turned to high-stakes probability games to secure funding for her ongoing laboratory works. She spent weeks drafting statistical curves to predict the outcomes of random card shuffles. The sheer chaotic randomness of the physical deck defied her strict mathematical rules completely. She incurred massive financial debts that threatened her family's entire estate security framework. She secretly pawned several precious family jewel heirlooms to satisfy her urgent creditors quietly. The overwhelming psychological stress caused a rapid, total collapse of her physical health status. She became permanently bedridden as the aggressive form of cancer took firm, unyielding hold. Her mother arrived immediately to assume absolute dictatorial control over her environment and care. Lady Byron banned all scientific textbooks and correspondence from entering the house entirely. Ada Lovelace was forced to spend her final months listening to continuous religious homilies. She found brief moments of peace by watching a solitary oak tree change colors in the garden. She secretly dictated her final legal testament to a trusted family attorney who visited undercover. She demanded to be buried next to her legendary father, Lord Byron, in the family vault. She passed away quietly on a cold, late November evening inside her London mansion estate. Her small funeral was a modest, private affair, completely separate from her grand scientific legacy. Her brilliant notebooks lay forgotten in dark university archive cellars for more than a century. The modern digital revolution brought her extraordinary work back into the global scientific spotlight. Scientists were stunned by the absolute foresight and precision of her early programming designs. She is now globally celebrated as a true founding mother of computer science technology systems. Her historic journey inspires millions of young tech students who build software every day. She combined the vision of a poet with the absolute precision of an elite master mathematician. Ada Lovelace's profound insights will continue to shape the destiny of technology forever and always.
Open the frame, watch it come alive. Lines on the glass turn into design. One clean move and the whole thing shifts. You tap the edge, now the future fits. Hold that spark, keep it sharp, feel the code in your palm. All the noise falls away, now the signal leads the way. Built for the next move, built for the next move. Sharp and alive tonight. Built for the next move, built for the next move. Everything feels right.